And welcome to another edition of Odyssey House Journals. I'm Trip Mitchell, and this is Randall Carlisle.
Hello again, Trip.
And the reason we're here is to talk about addiction here in the state of Utah and give some great news. And that recovery is there.
Yes.
Yeah, of course, if you could have been here the last 30 seconds, I was telling stories about the ski industry 30 years ago, and things were a little different. But
We were talking about, Trip and I are recovering alcoholics, and we were talking about carrying Bota bags and drinking almost the entire day of skiing.
and it was the case, and everyone did it, and it is so nice to ski a whole season and do it sober. And feeling good. You get a lot more out of the mountain.
It's a lot different.
It really is. But the reason we're here is to talk about recovery, and the great news is if you're watching the show for the first time and you know someone who's got some challenges, whether it be drugs or alcohol, there are so many wonderful people right here in the state of Utah who are there to help. There are recovery centers from $60,000 a month down to no charge.
Right.
And a lot of them all over have been doing a great job. And Randall, since retiring from TV, your job right now is to work with Odyssey House.
Media and community affairs for Odyssey House. And it was a perfect fit for me because I know the media and I know addiction. so it's working well. And I've worked for Odyssey House for close to 2 years now. I've been sober for 7. So how long have you been?
So I have been sober this time for almost 3.5.
Okay.
So,
Right.
but before I've had some pretty good runs, and you want to come back and make sure that you really
you don't want to do it again.
You don't. And there are people in recovery who literally will have their last drink, their last shot, their last hit, and be in recovery for years and years and years and never go back. And then there are people who, for whatever reason, take another drink again or do drugs again. And the great thing about recovery, and Mikey, we're going to get to your story in a second, is the fact that when you do go back, there's none of that. I know when I 15 years ago, first got sober and went back out, and I didn't want to disappoint people. I stopped going to meetings. I didn't, and that's the last thing. You can walk back in after you've made a mistake, and people are loving and they're caring and they want you to succeed. And that's amazing.
Yeah, my observation was, and it says it in AA's big book, is when I relapsed the last time, it wasn't fun at all. I mean, I remember, back in college, getting drunk and partying and stuff like that. And the last time I drank, when I relapsed after 9 months of sobriety, I thought, why? I got drunk and I blacked out, but it wasn't fun. It wasn't worth breaking my recovery. But I guess I had to learn that. So,
yeah, and learn it the hard way. And when that, and we were talking in our last show, Chad from Odyssey House was on it, and we were talking about how you can't force someone into recovery or making the right decisions. But boy, when it's time, you have trouble getting them out of recovery. Because when you make that decision and you've done that. So let's introduce us to Mikey. And
Mikey Sumners. He is a graduate from our adolescent program. He's the first person we've had on this show from our adolescent program.
Oh man, that makes me feel special.
See, you should.
No, yeah, I should be graduating the program today, later around 4:30.
Hey, wow.
And my release date from Odyssey is this Saturday, July 6th. So 8 months of effort, man. It was definitely worth it.
And you missed the end of ski season by one day.
I know.
Yeah.
4th of July. Snowbird will be open for our final day of the season. But you, coming at it from a different perspective, you had to have gotten into drugs or alcohol at a young age. If you could elaborate on, talk about your story a little bit, so maybe some people watching can be aware of the challenges that are out there for young people.
All right, yeah. So my parents were both struggling drug addicts, recovering drug addicts. My mom was a heroin addict. My dad was an alcoholic and a heroin addict. So that was always a big thing in my family. They relapsed multiple times while I was a kid. There's definitely a lot of stuff that, came because of that. A lot of it was, I had never had a very stable place to live. We were in and out of places. My dad was in and out of jail. My mom was in and out of, programs and stuff. And I lived with my grandparents for a really long time. The first time I used I was probably 10 years old was when I took my first drink.
Whoa.
And alcohol was never my forte. That's not something that enjoy it. I was like, this is cool, you know. But like it gets to a point where you're like puking and stuff, and you're like, yeah, I don't like this anymore. And
Been there.
They don't
yeah.
put that, let me explain a little magic of TV. They very rarely put people throwing up in the gutter on beer commercials.
No, yeah.
It looks a lot more glamorous.
It looks a lot more fun, and then
Yeah.
the next thing you know, you try it, and you're in that gutter throwing up, you know, so it's not as much fun as you think. But, you know, I had that very kind of hard upbringing. I had a lot of mental health problems that I didn't quite understand, and I got to be really obstinate and defiant, right? Wouldn't listen to what my mom said, wouldn't listen to what my dad said. Started self-harming at 12, I think, and then I got...
Self-harming?
Yeah, self-harming. So, you know, like cutting myself and stuff, and I used to do cigarette burns and stuff. I'm, I think, 4 years clean from that, at least, which is cool. You know, I had a lot of these suicidal ideations and everything, right? It was a very dark time in my life, and then I got diagnosed with ADD, got prescribed Adderall, and then that set me off with substances, right? Because then I took my first Adderall, and I was like, I feel weird, you know? And, like, I started getting things done, and I was like, okay, I like this. Took 2 more the next day, you know, it just kept building up. And it got to a point where I was staying up for weeks at a time just for fun, you know? Because I like the way... Because when you stay up after a while, you start seeing things. And I liked the way that felt. You know, it got really, like, weird. Like, I didn't know what anything was real, right? You didn't know what was real, what wasn't. And it got really scary. So I quit taking my Adderall for a really long time. And then 13, smoked weed for the first time. I didn't smoke weed again until about a year after that. You know, because my first time it didn't get me high. I was just like, okay, this is dumb. Probably because I didn't know how to do it. And then, you know, around 14 when I started high school, that's when it got really big. And I started stealing my mom's pills because my mom was prescribed Ambien. And, you know, I took it once. She gave it to me once because I couldn't sleep. And then, you know, I stayed up trying to fight that sleep. And I started tripping, you know, and, like, it got really bad. It got really weird. And after that, I found out I could get high on it. I was like, okay, well, I'm going to do this all the time. You know, so she caught me stealing a lot. And, like, it got to a point where I actually overdosed on it. I took 14 during a blackout.
14 Ambiens?
Yeah. I took 2, blacked out, and ended up taking the rest of my mom's pill bottle. And I found that after my blackout, because I remember I got really sick. That was the next thing I remember. I got sick. I went to the bathroom. I puked into the sink. There were pills in my puke. And I run out to see what time it is, and like 4 hours has gone by. Right? And I had no idea what happened. And I was like, my mom's about to go home. So I went to go check the pill bottle. It was empty. And I was like, oh my God. My mom comes home, obviously freaks out. But my mom was the type of person that so I smoked weed with her. We would smoke together. She was the first person I ever...
Not exactly the Donna Reed show. We just dated
He doesn't
ourselves.
even know what Donna Reed is. But
No, anyone under
I'm too
50
young.
does. Yeah.
But yeah, so, you know, that was the whole thing. And she was the type of parent that she's like, well, I'd rather you be doing it in the home than being unsafe out there doing it, right?
Do you remember... Let me go back for a second, because this is... We've never had anyone your age on the show whose parents are addicted. We've had lots of people on the show who have kids.
Mm-hmm.
And our last guest, Chad, as I mentioned earlier, Randall asked a very probing question about how, if his kids get involved in drugs, how he's going to handle it. So as a kid whose parents were into drugs and alcohol, how did you think about that? What did you... Because your friends probably didn't have that same experience.
Yeah, I sort of just looked at it as something that people do. You know, I thought that was the norm because that's what I grew up in, right? Like in and out of addiction and stuff. So that was what people did, and eventually that's what I would be doing. Because I looked at movies, right, and like there were high schoolers smoking cigarettes, smoking weed, you know, all that stuff, and I was like, well, that's just normal. You know, so that's what I got into because I thought that was the norm. Come to find out, it obviously wasn't.
Did you grow up in Utah?
Yes, I did. I was born in... don't remember, but I was raised in Sugar House for about 7 years. We moved to Logan. That was after my dad first got arrested. Well, not first, but that was after my dad got arrested for a really big thing. Moved to Logan. My dad ended up coming back. He got arrested again for assault on my mom, I think. I could be wrong, don't quote me.
You're on TV.
You are being quoted, actually.
No, but it's something like that, along those lines. So we ended up moving to Heber with my grandparents, and we stayed with them for a year and a half, you know, and then we found our own place.
In all those places, so you've got Sugar House,
Mm-hmm.
which probably, I would assume you can find drugs there pretty easily.
especially at that point in time, because it wasn't as cleaned up as it is right now.
But I would think it would be tough to find things in Heber or Logan.
Oh my God, it's so simple. Oh my God. So Logan, it's a very suburban area, right? And that's where all the pills are in those suburbs where everyone's doing good, you know, and everyone gets prescribed pain pills. They stop taking them because they're like, I don't want to take these. The kids find them and they're like, okay, you know, and they're like, okay, let's see what this does, because they get curious.
Heber?
Heber, it's just so tight knit that the only culture, we have nothing to do up there. It's so boring. The only culture we have is drug culture.
And by the way, your next job will not be with the Heber Tourist Commission.
No, yeah.
You're not going to be.
No way. No, I don't have, I mean, I have love
Don't
for
apply
Heber,
at the
but
homestead for a job.
Yeah. I don't have, like, hate for Heber, but I don't necessarily love it. You know, I mean, I appreciate what it's given me. You know, it's given me all these opportunities. It's got me in that position where it's like the lowest point in my life. But without that, I wouldn't be where I am today, right? I wouldn't have gotten sober to have this opportunity to talk to people, to explain what I've been through.
Are your grandparents just so proud of you?
So at first, okay, so I went and saw them last Saturday because it was my grandpa's retirement party, and he's like old. So it was crazy that he retired. We thought he was never going to retire, but he did. And
how old's old?
He's like almost 80.
Almost 80.
Wow.
Ooh, really
Hey,
old.
Qualify. You could run for president.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's pretty old, and I'm just...
You were about to, by the way, you were in danger at that moment. 2 elbows were going to come at you. From
No, I
different
knew. I
directions.
saw it. I saw it. So I was like, okay, let's,
really old.
let's save myself real quick.
You saw the look in his eyes. I wonder how old's safe to say it's old.
Exactly. I was like, okay, I'm going to make sure
His
I
grandfather's
play
really
this
62. he just
right. He's really
added
just
to that.
49.
Yeah.
No, so he retired, and I saw all my extended family, and it's been 3 years since I've seen them, because that's when I started getting really heavy into drugs, and I isolated. You know, the only people I hung out with were my mom and a couple friends that I knew would do drugs with me. Isolated myself completely, and I found them after 3 years, yeah. And it was crazy. Everyone's such an adult. Everyone's so much bigger. You know, and I thought I was going to be this, like, really odd one out. And I'm, like, the shortest one in the family. I am now. At first I wasn't, but everyone's so tall. I'm a short guy, just be aware.
But not on TV. We have a hair and makeup department. We put people on the rack and we stretch them.
Yeah.
No, it was just crazy, and everyone's so supportive of what I'm doing. You know, at first they really didn't like it because, you know, I wouldn't be around. They didn't know what I was doing. They obviously assumed the worst, which is safe to assume. But I told them how I've graduated high school. I graduated on time. I made up 11 credits in 7 months. And that, you know, I'm about to graduate the adolescent program, and they were all so proud of me, you know, and they asked me things like, what am I going to keep doing, you know, to make sure I stay in that mindset? And it's really just doing this, talking to people, you know, who I can relate to. You guys were talking about that on the last show, you know, and that's what it's all about. Is that it's sort of like service work, but I hate that word service work because it feels like a job. You know, it's just sort of me sharing my experience, you know, because I can't make the choice for anybody, right? But I can give them advice. I can give them ideas. And it's up to them to take those ideas. It
is. Getting back to your family's reaction, do you think that, are your parents still have drug and, are they still taking drugs and alcohol?
So my dad, he is actually homeless. He was living down at the road home for a while. Right now he has liver cancer. We found that out 2 weeks ago. And he's at a nursing home. And what I've heard, this is just the rumor, is that when he first got there, because it made sense because he was on a lot of painkillers when he first got there, you know, and he was hallucinating and stuff, that he was withdrawing from heroin. So, I mean, that makes sense to me because down at the road home, it's not a very nice place. You know, like, there's a lot of drugs. And, you know, I don't hold that against him either because it's sort of a mistake that he made, and maybe he's not in the right mindset to where he wants to be recovered yet, you know, and that's up to him to decide.
I was just wondering if you might be an impetus or just a reason for everyone else in your family to get clean.
No, yeah, I'm hoping. I mean, if they can see me do it, then maybe it sort of gives them the idea that they can do it.
Impetus is the word I was looking for, and you were trying to help me along there.
No, yeah, maybe if they see me doing it, then...
Because it is a great story. How old are you now?
I'm 18. I turned 18 this April.
So you've got... And I've been in meetings and where people, young people, 18, 20, 21, come in and they've kicked whatever was challenging them, drugs or alcohol, and such a bright future ahead. Do you see how bright your future is?
Oh, yeah.
Because you're obviously
so
a smart guy, and you probably can do anything you want.
Yeah, and there's so many, and I'm cute, so there's so many things I can get away with now.
Lee said that, but I didn't want to encourage you at all.
No, yeah, it's crazy. I have so many opportunities, so many options, to actually go out and do what I want with my life. Especially when it comes to helping people, because I feel like that's a big thing for me to stay sober, is to continue preaching what I've learned.
So what are you going to do next year?
Next year, I plan on going to college in the spring, because I missed the fall date, right, to apply to Salt Lake Community College. So I'm going to go to college in the spring. I'm going to do all my generals there, hopefully transfer to somewhere. And then at that point, I'm going to go to school for psychology as a substance abuse counselor.
Fantastic.
Because, with my background in what I know, it's going to be a lot easier to relate to me. The fact that I've been through it all. I've been through a program. I graduated a program. I've been to, that really dark part of addiction. I know where it goes, and, I'll be able to just share my experience.
And I would think your experience is so valid because you've been through it at an age when so many people in Utah have.
Yeah.
We've talked to a lot of people who maybe started addiction younger, but really got into it in their 20s and 30s. You were a full-blown addict in your teens.
No, yeah. My first experience with addiction was, so I was 15 or 16, and my mom was prescribed Suboxone, right, because she had relapsed a few years back, and she was still going through the treatment of weaning down and stuff, except she wasn't weaning down. She was staying on the same dose, sort of using it as an excuse, in my opinion. Right now, she's actually clean and sober off of all that, which is awesome.
Fantastic.
I'm so proud of her. Shouts out to you, Mom. No, but she had Suboxone, and I would take, it was like the Subutex, the one that aren't an opioid blocker, and I would cut it into fourths, snort a fourth, go to school, come back during lunch, snort another fourth, go back to school and slump out, right? And I did that for a few months, and that was my
slump
first.
out
is just not out in the middle of class, right? You're just falling asleep with your eyes open and stuff, trying to pay attention, but you can't. It was really bad, and it got to a point, so I withdrew from that, and during that withdrawal, I started using Xanax, because Xanax helps with the kick. It helps the stomach, all the pain and stuff. And I got addicted to Xanax. I started using that for a few months, and I had to withdraw.
You might be a third of your way towards your pharmacy degree.
Yeah,
you seem to.
I know an awful lot.
Yeah.
Describe one thing we haven't talked about is the Adolescent House at Odyssey is for young people 13 through 18, I guess, and he's
And you were
out.
nice enough to give Lee and I a tour.
Yeah,
before we
and
started
we have
the show.
classrooms there that are taught by Horizonte, Salt Lake City
That's what
school
I graduated
teachers.
through, was Horizonte.
And it's small. I mean, it's 16, 20 people, something like that.
So I think our max is 36, but we usually don't have anything over 27 at the most. I think that's what we have now.
What's life like for parents who might be watching, saying, "I've got a troubled child"?
So what would life be in Odyssey?
Yeah, in the
Basically,
Adolescent Program.
You get fed 3 meals a day, okay, and you get fat. I'm not even gonna lie. You eat so good. I'm saying that because I cook. Then it's a lot of therapy groups, and I know that sounds really boring and really lame, but it's actually pretty cool. There's a lot of things that I've definitely taken in. We have this one group, Seeking Safety. That's the group that I thrive for. That I learn the most from. I have this sheet of safe coping skills that I got from it, right? And that's where I got my tolerate the feeling sort of thing, because eventually it will pass, or delaying, because I still get the urges to smoke cigarettes and stuff and go do weed, but my thing about it is I'm going to delay it, because as of right now it's not an option. There's a level system, right? The orientation to compass to discovery to navigator, and after navigator it's the graduate phase. But in order to get all to those levels, you have to show mastery or competency in all the things beforehand, and I think it's
a building block type
exactly
of...
yes and once you get to discovery navigator, you can have visits outside of the facility. You can go, I think at discovery you can go for a 12-hour community visit. Well, that's even a home visit. You can go home, hang out. And then at Navigator, you do 24 hours and 48 hours. And then eventually, transition out. It's honestly a really cool program. I hated it when I first got there. I was like, this is stupid. I'm never going to get through this. I'm going to be here forever. I thought, I was like, you know what, I can get up to Compass and then sweet talk my judge into letting me go free. You know, because I was
How'd
only
that work
supposed to, it didn't work. I was supposed to be in a program for 5 weeks. And so I was really riding on that idea. I was like, 5 weeks, I'll be done. You know,
Yeah, I can do it. I can do
I'll
it.
go right back to it. And then 6 weeks came and I was like, oh my God, why? You know, and like, it broke me down and I got to, it strips you to your bare minimum. I feel like that's the best way to explain it. You know, and that sounds scary, that sounds uncomfortable, but that's the point. You know, it's things that you don't want to deal with that you're going to have to deal with, you know, that they make you deal with. It strips you to that sort of like, who really am I sort of idea. You know, and then it helps you build on that.
So if you meet friends at the community college next spring, they're going to say, I went to Highland High School. What are you going to say to them?
Man, I went to Odyssey. No, basically I'll have to tell them, you know, I will tell them I did high school in Odyssey. You know, because that's something I'm actually proud of. I wouldn't have graduated high school without going to Odyssey. You know, I wouldn't have had that opportunity. I was so far behind. I was a dropout before I went to Odyssey. You know, before Odyssey, my thing was I started using meth. And I was using meth for 6 months. It felt like 2 months because of how long you stay awake, because of how fast every day goes. It all just blends and merges together. I was doing meth for about 6 months, and I wouldn't drug test, so my judge, you know, got the help for me. Because I always said, the last guy, he talked about, he always wanted to do it himself. And that is a big thing in addiction, because I constantly wanted to do it myself. I was like, I did get myself into it, you know, I can get myself out. But it never works that way. And, like, you can try it as hard as you could. I got sober from pills for 9 months, relapsed, started doing meth, ended up in rehab. You know, because I wouldn't help myself, so someone decided to get the help for me. You know, and because of that help, I was able to graduate high school. I was able to learn how to function. I'm actually 8.5 months sober. You know? And, like, that's the longest I've ever been sober in my life, besides, you know, before I started using. And without Odyssey, I would not have the mindset to stay sober. You
That's
know,
fantastic.
I would definitely end up using again.
And I love the idea of putting off that bad choice. And in my case, if as a recovering alcoholic, there's some nights that you want to drink, and my philosophy is, as long as I can get to bed sober, I'll wake up in a different headspace.
Exactly, yeah.
And you just get through a day.
I've got to brag about Mikey here. He participated, we got to get this in, I know we're running out of time.
Oh, I forgot.
Yes, he participated in a program, and I'm not sure, it's a national contest for poetry writing, and the way they worded it is for kids in confinement. So I guess that would include people in juvenile detention centers, in rehab places like our adolescent house. And he wrote a poem, and they haven't narrowed it down to the final finalist yet, but he is one of the top 12 poems in America that he wrote.
And I think there's only 2 from Utah, and I'm one of the 2.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
So that in itself is a crazy idea.
You know, I just want to give you a little advice. Writing can lead to bad things like the television business. So,
or
if you write a lot, you might meet
it could become a James Patterson or a Stephen King and be making millions of dollars and selling millions of books.
So
okay, there is that too. Yeah, there is that.
But beware the television business.
Yeah, beware of the television business. If you can't direct, you can always write.
He is one of the most beloved clients that we have.
Well, tell me about your cooking. I understand that you are.
So yeah, I like to cook. So we have this thing called KC. It's Kitchen Crew. I've been on Kitchen Crew for 5 or 6 months now. I haven't cooked in the kitchen for a few weeks because it's sort of been my like transitional thing out of KC. But yeah, like it's so weird. I got there and I didn't know how to cook, and we have this one staff named Wes. He taught me everything I know about cooking. You know, like I know how to make like crazy chicken Alfredo and you know, and that's probably my favorite thing. And chicken enchiladas, any sort of enchiladas. Oh man, I'm your guy. God, I love food.
Yeah, well, cooking it's something that you can do that benefits other people. It is a nice way of saying, hey, I care about you.
Yeah, be like, yo, I'm gonna cook you a good meal. You know, and that's something I'm really excited for, is when I get out, I can cook my mom a really nice meal.
Well, that's not to mention impressing a date.
Girls are icky.
Yeah. Well, girls complain a lot, I'll guarantee you.
Well, I've been divorced 4 times, so I'm going along with you on that one. So,
But Mikey, you've been an inspirational story, and we thank you so much for coming down. So if you're watching and you have a son or daughter who has some addiction issues, a niece or nephew or someone young, there are so many wonderful treatment centers out there and people who really can focus in on the challenges of being an adolescent. And it sounds to me like any high school you go to, even junior high, kids are going to be susceptible to this stuff.
It's
It is
found
out
anywhere.
there.
It's everywhere in schools. Oh my God.
So spending time with your young one, but if you have a question, the number at the bottom of the screen is for Odyssey House, and Odyssey House is just one of many wonderful facilities.
Mm-hmm.
Randall has given the last couple of years of your life to Odyssey House.
Yeah, and I love Odyssey House, but not every treatment facility is right for every person. You need to search. You need to search what's right for you.
Definitely.
But bottom line, you've got to decide that you need help before and you want help.
But the number at the bottom of the screen will give you a start with some great people, and they can introduce you to some other great people. And there's so many people out to help. And for those of us listening on podcasts,
I'm glad you asked me that, because you can call the number 801-322-3222.
and either that or you can call up a used car dealership in Randall.
I'll sell you one of those too. Yeah,
we can and we will finance you. So, Mikey, your story has been really just a pleasure meeting you, and I wish you all the success in the future. And if your message can help young, I can really see you in the next couple of years going to speak at high schools, because you can walk in and have that credibility that an old guy doesn't.
Yeah.
So, I hope that you can find the way to talk to as many young people in the next couple of years and relate your experience and help people avoid this, because it's a rough road, but I'm excited for your future.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Randall?
it was great being here. I love bringing Mikey because he's just, it gives you a lot of faith and hope in the future. I mean, he's going to make good things in his life, and he went through a real dark period. And it just goes to show that anybody can turn things around. And that I hate Mikey for one reason. I wish when I was his age I would have learned to do what Mikey has learned. And I wouldn't have gone through all the pain that I've gone through all the decades of my life.
But on the other hand, you might not be sitting here right now, and I'm thankful for that.
Well,
I wouldn't have gotten a chance to meet Mikey,
Yeah.
so it's all about me.
Well,
You're
no,
paying
it's all
tribute.
about me. No, it's all about Mikey. No.
Yeah, and addicts and alcoholics, we are just so well-rounded people. But what we do is we are thankful for the people that helped us out. I know I am, and
me too.
Randall, you
Sure.
are. And one of the best ways to do that is to talk to people. And because I'm in the television business and Randall has been an anchor for all these years, this show is our way of just letting people
sure.
know there are wonderful solutions out there. Lee, our producer, the same way. We do this for fun. And
I thought we got paid for this. We don't?
we don't.
Darn.
Why did I even come on then?
Yeah, see.
Well, your agent didn't read the contract. But thanks for
Randall.
watching.
Sure.
There's so much help out there, and we'll see you next time right here for Randall Carlisle. I'm Trip Mitchell. Thanks so much for watching.